Hey everyone, Lisel Crowley here at the Cool Tools Studio. Today I'm going to show you how to make some beautiful lacy earrings using EZ960 clay. These are the earrings we're going to make today, and we're going to set a fire opal cubic zirconia into the earrings. Let's get started. So this is what we're going to use for today's project. We're going to use EZ960 clay because of the strength. Because of those delicate syringe lines, we want a nice strong clay for this. And we're also going to use the clay in the syringe. And we'll be using the fine tip on the syringe, which is this blue tip here. We're going to need water and brush. Your choice of template. I particularly like these teardrop shaped templates, but you could really do this project in any shape you'd like. You want to have a clay board. You want to have a clear work card because you're going to be following an outline that you're going to tape underneath. So you want whatever work surface you're going to use to be clear. We're going to use a 3mm cubic zirconia that can be fired to the temperature of EZ960. Today we're going to use these fire opals. They're really sparkly and flashy. 2.5mm biopsy punch. Coil roller, thickness frames, and very high-tech tools, a pen and post-it notes. Let's get started. So I like to store my clay long-term in this clay hydrator, but here's another little tip for you. You can also, while you're working, upend it over the clay, and that will keep the clay nice and moist while you're working and give you easy access to it. So the first step of this on this project is to set the stones. We have to set the stones in a clay bezel and let them dry and sand them before we actually make the earrings. So to do this, I'm going to work on a tough card. And I'm going to determine the depth of the stone. And to do that, I put the stone on the tough card and I put my frames over it. Do you see how the stone is moving there? When I add the two cards, it doesn't move. I need to be at this depth to set my stone. I'm going to take a wad of fresh clay or freshly reconstituted clay. This is very important. You don't want to be trying to make a bezel with dry clay. And I'm going to just flatten it using my coil roller and the frames. And now I'm going to take the circle stone setting template and use the smallest circle, and I'm going to cut 2 circles out using my clay pick. And then I'm going to cut away the excess clay. Don't worry if it isn't perfect, because you can fix that later. I'm going to just slightly roll this in my finger to smooth the sides. And then I'm going to come back. My frames are still in place. I just have to make sure they're on top of the tough card. And I'm going to press one more time. Now I'm going to use the 2.5mm biopsy punch. And these biopsy punches are great because they're very clearly calibrated and you're getting exactly the size you need. And I'm going to cut a hole out in the middle of each of these discs. And I always like to press all the way down and twist. Now I will clean the clay out of that biopsy punch, but first I want to get my stones in the bezels. So I'm going to use these diamond tweezers and place the stones in point down. All I have to do is get them set on that little circle. I don't have to worry about getting them level, because when I do this step, That levels them and gets them under the surface of the clay. And then I'll take away the top card and press one more time, just to make sure those stones are in there perfectly. These are fairly smooth. There's no surface cracks, but if there were, you could lightly brush with water. And then these will be set aside to dry. They'll be sanded, and then I'll make the earrings. Okay, so the next step is to draw the outline for the frame of the earrings. And as I said, you can use any template you want. I'm going to use this one that I really love. It's called Fat Pods, and I use it for a lot of projects. You can make these as big as you want, but I'm going to work fairly small. I'm going to work with this size here. And I'm going to just take a pen. Actually, I want to take the Post-it note and flip it over before I draw. And I'm going to draw my outline of the shape. And I'm going to draw two of them. And then I can just stick this to the bottom of a clear work surface. And that will be the framework that I use to create my frame. And to create the frame, we're going to create thin coils of clay. And again, for coils, you also want either fresh clay or freshly reconstituted clay. And I don't need a lot of clay for this because I'm making a delicate frame. I'm not making a really hefty coil or a hefty piece. But I do want to make it long enough to be able to go around the complete outline. So once I get my coil rolled, I'm going to lay it down. You notice I didn't even wet it. That's because I was able to roll it fast enough to not have surface cracks. But at this stage of the game, I am going to wet it just so that cracks don't form as I'm working. And I'm going to use the pen line to create the shape. And I like to get a little point on the bottom there because it is a pointed shape. And as you see, I can just stroke the coil around with the brush to really get the shape where I want it. And I'm going to overlap it at the top. I want to just correct this curve right here. And this is the benefit of having the outline underneath. You can get that shape perfect. And then I'm going to come in with my clay pick and trim. Reclaim this clay. And the final step, let me just fix this here a little bit, is to take my coil roller, and I do need to lube it a little bit with some Cool Slip because the coil is wet. If the coil was not wet, I would not need to lube it. And I'm going to just press. I'm not using frames. I'm just going to visually see what's happening through the coil roller as I'm pressing. And I'm just flattening that shape and also bonding the overlap at the top. And because I lubed it, it'll release. Now I can, again, just, if the shape was compromised during that pressing stage, I can gently fix it with my damp brush. Now, because these are going to be earrings, I'm just going to poke a hole right here at the top. And this is a pilot hole. I'll actually drill the hole out with a drill after the piece is dry. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other shape, set them aside to dry, and then I'll show you the next step. So I have my 2 cubic zirconias that have been dried and sanded. I also have my 2 frames that I've made that have also been dried and sanded. The next step is a lot of fun. I'm going to take my syringe with the fine tip on it. And whenever you keep your syringe point down in water, and that keeps the tip from drying out. But whenever you take it out of the water, you want to dab it on paper towel or a sponge or something to get rid of the excess water. And the proper way to hold the syringe is in your fist, and you press on the plunger with your thumb. And I am just going to create random squiggly lines within the framework of the design. And I'm just going to let it squeeze out. And see how much fun this is? Now, if you wanted to be a little more precise with your lines, you could, but I just love the look of this kind of lacy freeform application. What I'm going to do now is just come in with my brush, and anything that went outside the lines, I'm going to just lightly push it in. I don't want anything hanging out beyond the lines. And if you notice, the syringe on this is a little thicker than on there. I'm not going to worry about exactly matching anything. This is a very random and fun process. It's not something that is precise. But one thing you do want to be careful of is having gaps that are too large, because that can weaken the design. So like in here where the gap is a little large, and here, I'm just going to add a little bit more. Okay, same on this right here, I need a little bit more, and right in here. Just a little around the sides here. And that's it. So the next step is to take your frame and just set it right on top and apply a little bit of pressure. And because that syringe is nice and moist, you will, it will automatically bond to the frame. You don't have to worry about making it connect. And I'm just putting a little bit of pressure, and I can also come in with my coil roller and just lightly press, and that's going to give me a nice even pressure over the whole thing. And then finally, I'm going to just take my cubic zirconia, dip it in water, and place it. And I like to place them in the tip of the design, but you can place them anywhere. And again, that syringe is going to be enough to bond the stone in. And finally, I'm going to drill out the holes for the ear wire, and I'm going to use one of these handy drills. I love this tool. All of the drill bits store in the back. It's very easy to change bits. I've got a bit that will accommodate an ear wire. It'll make a hole that will accommodate an ear wire. And as I'm drilling, I'm letting the drill do the work. I'm not trying to punch through the clay. I'm drilling through the clay. And you can see those little crumbs of clay coming up. That's telling you that the drill is working. So I'll drill both of these earrings out, and these will be dried completely, and the stones will be cleaned off with alcohol before we put them in the kiln. Okay, so here's the finished earrings. We've taken them, we fired them, and brushed them and put them in the tumbler. And I want you to know that it is safe to put these in the tumbler. They will survive the tumbler just fine. And you can see how lovely they look in the ear wires. And these are another example in a different shape. Neither of these have patina. And then here's two examples with patina. So you can play around with whether you want to patina them or not. I think they look lovely anyway. This is a really fun project. It uses a small amount of clay. It's super easy to do, and it's a great production project if you have to get ready for a show or something. I think maybe at the most it uses 5 or 6 grams of clay. I hope you enjoy making these. Have fun.
Visit our Learning Center at cooltools.us for more cool jewelry making videos. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and be sure to sign up for our email list to be the first to hear about new videos, new products, and other cool stuff from Cool Tools.